Hey, good morning, everybody. I would like to call this meeting to order. It is currently 9 a.m. I would like to confirm that we do have quorum as well, that we have our CAO clerk and members of the senior management team here and present today. I'd like to continue to advise the public to provide comment at the following email address, tmlpubliccomment@muskokalakes.ca, and none were received. Today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lake website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. Would like to advise that we did receive a supplementary agenda, which includes the following on 6A, public comment by Mr. John Crowley of the Moon River Property Owners Association regarding the Bala Community Reserve Fund Report 10B. At this point, I'd like to ask committee if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest. Okay, seeing none, just a few little administrative notes. That the motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. And voting members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded by the clerk. This is not considered a recorded vote. So at this point, we do have the two delegations. I think what I'll do, the first one is item 5A. Ms. Condy, would you like to come up to the podium? You have 5 minutes. And welcome.
Thank you. Christine Condy, Lot 6, 1307, 3 Mile Lake Road 1. So good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I am the president of the 3 Mile Lake Association. I'm requesting the township support in preparing a vessel operation restriction regulation application, commonly referred to as a VORR, VORR. A VORR is a federal regulation administered through Transport Canada that allows specific boating activities to be restricted on a water body for environmental and safety protection. So specifically, prohibit wake-enhanced boating activities, including wake surfing and the operation of vessels configured to generate amplified wakes on all waters of 3 Mile Lake. So please note, this is not a ban on wake boats, just the activity. We have undertaken extensive research to support this initiative and have provided a detailed technical appendix for staff. Today, I'll provide a brief overview for the General Finance Committee. 3 Mile Lake has been identified by the District Municipality of Muskoka as a highly sensitive lake with a long history of harmful algal blooms and elevated phosphorus concentrations that have had at many times exceeded 20 parts per billion. So what's changed? Over the past several years, we've noticed earlier onset of our blooms, increased frequency, persistence, and definitely intensity. These changes are not isolated. They represent a shift in how our lake is functioning. Over the last several years, seasonal observations and satellite imagery have also documented increasingly concentrated cyanobacterial accumulations within the western main basin. Because not all cyanobacterial toxins are routinely monitored by the MECP or fully characterized, these concentrated bloom conditions may represent not only an ecological concern, but also a potential public health concern for swimmers, pets, and other recreational users. Recent Canadian research suggests that wake-enhanced boating activity may contribute to resuspension of lake bed sediments. Mobilization of phosphorus into the water column, increased nutrient availability for the algae, and in shallow lake like 3 Mile, where the basin is, the main basin averages 4 meters in depth, and Hamels Bay averages 12. It's simply not it is not simply an occasional event. It has the potential to become a repeated system-wide disturbance. So this matters because 3 Mile is particularly vulnerable because of its structure, shallow and narrow in many areas, meaning that wave energy frequently reaches the bottom and has limited opportunity to dissipate. Hamels Bay is deeper and attracts these wake boats, but it is connected to the main basin through a single outflow. This creates the potential for nutrients mobilized in one area to influence the broader lake. This is not a localized issue, it is a lake-wide pressure on water quality. So recent Ontario-based research demonstrates that in fetch-limited lakes, which is the distance that wind and wave can travel across uninterrupted, vessel-generated wakes can account for the majority of total wave energy, often exceeding 60 to 80%. And in these systems, wake-enhanced boating can become a dominant physical force, acting on shoreline and natural and nearshore sediments. This effect is most pronounced in smaller, confined, and multi-basin lakes where wave energy cannot dissipate effectively, conditions that closely match those found on 3 Mile. So what are we asking? We are not asking the township to regulate boating activity directly. We are requesting that council partners with 3 Mile Lake Association and acts as a required local authority in support of the preparation and submission of the VORR application to Transport Canada. The proposed restriction would target only wake-enhanced boating activities, including wake surfing and amplified wake operations. Again, it does not restrict the use of the boats themselves. So we recognize that this process will require staff time, including coordination, consultation, and prep of the application. Our intent is to work in partnership with the township to support that process, including assembling technical materials and assisting with community engagement. We are also mindful that not all potential cyanobacterial toxins are routinely monitored, which reinforces the importance of precautionary approach. This is an area we have been actively engaging with Health Canada, the MECP, and Ontario Public Health with some good results. We will continue to develop and work on this technical staff appendix, even though it's already been submitted. And this is a practical, targeted, and evidence-based step, one controllable part of a broader strategy to protect a highly sensitive lake. Thank you. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder that I'll open up the floor to the committee for questions now, and then we will be discussing the item a little bit further on in today's agenda as we've discussed. So committee, any questions? Councillor Zavitz, Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Christine. I'm just wondering what the frequency of wakeboard, wake surf activities are on your lake. How have you been monitoring? Clearly, it's a problem. It's an issue. Just wondering.
So we're basing our choices here on moving forward with this, with the observations from people who actually live in the area where they seem to concentrate, which is Hamels Bay. I myself am on the main basin. I have seen them in the main basin. But yes, there is, we're getting reports of large rollers coming in, some structure damage, and the fact that they are concentrating there. You can imagine what a Sunday on a long weekend is happening in that bay.
Okay, supplemental.
Thank you. Yeah, supplemental. So, the activity is throughout Muskoka, right? It's on our lakes. And it's interesting. Has anybody approached I don't know, is there like a flotilla of 35 wake surf boats on a Sunday just right in the bay, or are they scattered because they work in deeper water, right? Those boats don't have much impact along the shore. They need deep water to create the wake. So do they tend to go out into the bigger open areas?
Even the research has not come to an agreement on what is the safe depth. Certainly down the center of Lake Muskoka, Joe or Rosso, I can see no problem. But the morphology of 3 Mile Lake is completely different. We are shallow. We have a very limited amount of spaces where the shallowness and the fetch cross over, and we don't know what the drivers are doing, but they're coming out there, and they're causing a lot of turbulence in the water, and this is our concern. I mean, I have no problem with wake surfing, but 3 Mile is just not the right lake for this activity.
So I'm now going to go to Councillor Kent, Mayor Kelly, and then Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, through you. Just, could you, I'm actually a big supporter of this. I understand it's very controversial. And there's
Yes.
people who will have gain a lot from this and people who will lose something. But can you give me a level, an indication of what the support is? I mean, I know you represent the one organization, but across the lake, if you were to take a poll of homeowners and residents on the lake, what level of support would you think you'd get for this provision?
Sure. Well, we have done a survey amongst our members. Now, council has to remember that we represent only 225 out of 610 properties. So we're limited representation to start with. But the recent survey is 69% support, 18% do not support, and the balance would like more information on the topic.
That's pretty good numbers.
Mhm.
Thank
I
Thank you.
think so.
Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, and through you. I'm probably in the same boat as Councillor Kent. I have an issue with the problems that are created by the wake, but I'd like to understand two things. Number one, are there similar lakes, shallow lakes, that are experiencing the same frequency, for instance, of algal blooms? Is this unique to 3 Mile, or is there other lakes around that have the same problem? That's my first question.
I think we can all accept that 3 Mile is an exception within Muskoka. Thankfully, we don't want too many more problem lakes like 3 Mile. Whether the lakes that don't have the algae issues like we do also have a problem. I think any shallow lake that's concerned about sediment disruption, this would be a concern, because although it can be hard on paddlers, it's bad on environmental erosion and shoreline disturbances, et cetera, it's the nutrient resuspension. I would like you guys to remember that we are most focused on. It is, this is an attempt, just one more attempt in many of the strategies that we have on 3 Mile to try to soften the effect of cyanobacterial growth.
And, through you, if I may, just one supplemental. When you were describing the research that's been done,
Yes.
it sounded a little bit less than definitive that there was a causal link between the wakeboard and some of the degradation in the water quality. Is it? I mean, I'd like to see
Of course, we have to say words like can and may in these reports. But I think, obviously, I think the work is definitive. For example, Dr. Chris Hauser, who has been invited by the MLA to participate in the conference in June, will be speaking on this issue. There's been some wonderful research done out of the University of Windsor. A lot of this research is stateside. It's pretty definitive. And once you see the videos of what happens on the bottom of the lake bed, that was what flipped my switch. We have so much trouble on our lake. We can't do that too. We can't.
Thank you.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, welcome.
Hi, Gord.
Hi. You have 210 properties registered as members. How many properties are not registered as?
Well, we represent a third, so there's 610 properties in total.
Okay. Okay, I'll come back. I just thought I had a loss of mind.
It's okay. No worries.
I'll come back, Susan.
I think there's one more set of questions. Rob, Councillor Rosemary, sorry.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. What about shoreline erosion? My understanding is 3 Mile Lake has a lot of soft shoreline versus the bigger lakes, which tend to be rock. Is that an issue as well?
Well, first of all, let's put it up front that there's been a lot of research done on wakeboard activities with shoreline erosion, and the research is not as yet definitive, but it's ongoing. I would say that 3 Mile has a vast percentage is rocky shoreline. I'm just guessing here, 40%, I think I've read. It's in the area, unfortunately, of Hamels Bay where these boaters think they're doing the right thing. There's a lot of natural habitat areas and extended wetlands, which doesn't give the nesting, for instance, wildlife much of a shot, right? So.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. What is the depth of water in Hamels Bay?
12 meters at the deepest, but it varies all over. If you diverge just in, the very small area where
The
it's
deepest spot,
12 meters.
12 meters, it's
Yeah.
12 meters, it's the deepest spot. And throughout the whole lake, what's the average depth?
Well, you'd have to do the math. It's pretty easy. It's 3 Mile is basically 2 lakes. Really, there's the division between Hamels Bay and the main basin almost holds the water apart, but there is transfer of activity. Main basin average depth is 4 meters, 12 meters in Hamels Bay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, are there any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. That was a great
you for your
presentation,
time.
and we will follow up. If you decide to stay today, great.
We
If not,
might,
somebody
yeah.
else, staff will follow up with you after. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to our next delegation. It's the right person. Under public comment, sorry. Thank you for the reminder. Welcome to the podium, Mr. Crowley. You have 5 minutes and we'll do the same formula here. Open up for questions.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is John Crowley. I live at 1018 Sandover Drive in Bell on the Moon River. I am the current president of the Moon River Property Owners Association, affectionately known as Mr. Poe. I'm here today to speak about the report concerning the Valley Community Reserve Fund, the Swift River Funds. We believe that some additional context would be meaningful for your discussion. In August of 25, a public survey was conducted. The results of that survey was reported to this committee on September 10th of 25. 132 responses were recorded. The top 3 responses on where the funds should be used were improvements to the Valley Bay Town Dock, 31%, pedestrian safety crosswalks, 27%, and the third was repair or refurbishment of the Moon River Boat Launch, 25%. One of the key notable is that 74% wanted several smaller projects and not one large one. I spoke to Director Colucci this past Monday, and the budget for the rehabilitation of the Moon River Launch is $40,000. That money is in the capital works budget for 27, but future budget items can be reallocated or deferred as needs arise. The report in front of you today recommends spending $175,000 on a project that mostly benefits local business and tourism. That's fine, that's great, but it doesn't address what the survey wanted. And that money is virtually all of the $192,400 of the community fund. One large project. This is in conflict with the wishes of the Valley community as shown in the survey. And a word about the Valley community as a whole. It's estimated that there are 440 homes and cottages on the Moon River between the Falls and Ragged Rapids. And I suspect that in the area of the town itself and the people living on Dudley's Point and Long Lake, and perhaps as far as Sunset Bay and towards Torrance, we would consider themselves part of Valley. Might that be another 400 to 500 homes? So the residents on the Moon River constitute a large percentage of the town. I remember Mayor Kelly speaking at one of our Mr. Poe meetings saying that these funds should not be spent on things that the township would do anyways. And to be fair, this report reflects what council directed. But the Moon River boat launch is in desperate need of repair. Long past its best before date. Our members complain of damage to their boats and especially their trailers trying to launch. There's a large boulder that many, including myself, have hit. There goes a problem. There's an unmarked shoal right beside the ramp. One member wrote to me that 2 marinas tell her it's the absolute worst boat launch in Muskoka. 2 other points to mention, and then I'll get to our ask. The residents on the Moon River suffered for years while a hydro dam was under construction. We experienced noise, blasting, all-night lights, an excavator that fell into the river, leaking shipping containment, heavy traffic and disruption. And some say we still suffer as we have to look at the big block of concrete every day from the water. To be denied the allocation of any of these funds, frankly, is an affront to the residents of the Moon River. The Moon River community carried the impacts of this project so the broader township could benefit. We are simply asking council to ensure that communities who continue to live with those impacts are not forgotten when these funds are allocated. The optics of not providing any of these funds to our residents is not good. Using the funds on the boat launch would go a long way to ease the frustration and anger still felt on the Moon. The money's in the budget for next year, yes, but that is not acknowledged that some of these reserve funds should be allocated to the Moon River residents. Use these funds and reallocate the capital budget. This report was published along with the agenda at 3:55 Friday afternoon. Now, that's not much time for us as an organization to react, but we have. We made an urgent post on our Facebook page and sent an email blast to our membership. We provided a synopsis of this report and asked our followers, over 900 by the way, to let us know if they would like some of the community reserve funds spent now on the boat launch. We have 92 affirmative responses, and I had 2 more hit my inbox this morning. And many took their time to tell their bad experiences about the boat launch. I have a list of all the names here, and I will present it to the clerk through you, Chair Mazan, if I may. In conclusion, we ask that funds from the Valley Community Reserve be released now in 2026 to repair and refurbish the Moon River boat launch, and that permits from the MNR be expedited so that work can be completed this fall. We can encourage the committee to choose alternative number 1 and use the $40,000 of the funds for the Moon River boat launch project for this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committee, are there any questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Councillor Zavitz, do you have a question? Because okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, as I'm sure this will be discussed a little bit later today in the agenda. So thank you very much for that delegation today. Moving on, we are moving to item 8A. Ms. Story, are you here? Thank you. Welcome.
All right. Thank you, Chair Mazan, and good morning, committee. The report before you is regarding a proposed new policy to facilitate the sales of shore road and road allowances. During last month's council meeting, council directed staff to return to General Finance Committee to allow the opportunity to review and comment on a public letter that was received and circulated prior to the meeting that pointed out concerns with fees associated with the sales of road allowances and selling road allowances that lead to water. Staff have reviewed and considered these points further and are recommending changing the fee for the sales of road allowances as detailed in the staff report, which would require an update to the township's fees and charges bylaw. Staff are not recommending any changes regarding the limitations of the sales of road allowances that lead to water based on previous feedback received from committee. Should committee opt to consider greater flexibility or restrictions for the sales of road allowances leading to water, those conditions can be amended upon direction from committee. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Committee, we do have a resolution, so I will open up the floor for questions at this point before I read the resolution. Councillor Kent and then Councillor Bosemarth.
Thank you. Can you just give me your reaction to Mr. Moran's letter, which I thought was excellent?
Sure. So he did have some good points, some which we have gone back and looked at, the fees. So we're recommending a change to the fees. Just looking at his letter, his suggestions, as well as taking a look at our other area municipalities and what they charge in terms of fees. His other concern appeared to be with selling road allowances that lead to water. From my understanding, he is maybe suggesting that we look to opening that up and not limiting that so much. But again, based on previous feedback from committee and council, we've chosen to leave those restrictions as is in the current policy or in the proposed new policy. And if committee would like to consider opening that up more, we can certainly do so, but we would look to your direction.
Can I just have a follow-up?
A supplemental?
Yes, something. Just for clarity, I'm confused. Where Ms. Moran says if a access leading to water provides the existing homeowner with beneficial development opportunities, expanded shoreline, allows for a bigger boathouse, you're suggesting we don't change the rates on that?
No, that's not, so we are recommending changing the fee overall. So for road allowances that don't lead to water, we are going to give, what we're proposing to give is the applicant the option of paying $1.65 a square foot or obtaining an appraisal. The type of appraisal that would be required is a value and contribution appraisal. and they would have that option. For road allowances that lead to water, we are recommending that an appraisal be required. Again, a value and contribution method. So we're setting the two differences there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bosenworth, Councillor Burry. I don't, Mayor Kelly, did you have your hand up as well? No, okay. And then Councillor Zavitz.
Yes, thank you. And through you, just a couple of questions, if I may, Chair. What is the rationale that we want to sell the flooded portion of the road allowance with the road allowance?
So that's for shore road allowances. So we are recommending that we require the sale of flooded lands. Again, it's sort of following suit with our other area municipalities. Previously, the ministry did not allow townships to sell the flooded lands. They've since opened that up. So as a formality, we would like to close all of it. Again, it saves the property owner from purchasing the unflooded portion. And then a few years later down the line, dealing with the boathouse and wanting to buy the Crown Lake bed, they have to come back to the township and essentially do the process all over again for the flooded lands. So we're looking at requiring the purchase for both going forward.
Thank you. And the second question is, we're going to exempt having them required to purchase the road allowance, we call it the shore allowance, right? I got to get the terms right. Shore allowances are across the shore.
Shore road allowances, yes, they essentially fall.
We're not going to we're going to exempt if they're putting in a dock, and you plan to phase that out. How would that phase out happen?
Good question through you, Chair. So I think in the next few years, we'll look at this policy and sort of determine how we would like to phase that in going forward. I think with any policy, once we get the ball rolling, things, things need to be updated and changed. But I think with the change of requiring the purchase of a shore road allowance for the boathouses, that's a big change. So we want to start with that and then potentially look at the policy going forward and look to requiring the purchase for docks as well and give people some time to wrap their head around that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burry.
Thank you. And through you, it's probably a question to our CAO. I'm concerned. I keep hearing that we're looking at other municipalities. I want to be very clear in my understanding. Our municipality has no comparables. We have built form boathouses on our big lakes. They don't have that on the Rideau. They don't have it in Haliburton. They don't have it in Algonquin Park or in Georgian Bay. We don't have comparables. So we're going to have a made in Muskoka Lakes solution for this.
Okay, so the question is?
So the question is, why do we keep hearing of looking at other municipalities at what they're doing? There are no other municipalities in the province of Ontario, and I don't think in Canada, that are the same. So why are we looking to others when we're going to have to come up with our own?
Okay, that was a good question. Thank you. CAO Pink.
Thank you, through you. I think staff, as I think appropriately done, just for comparison purposes, did look at what our neighbors are doing. But I think we certainly would agree and recognize that the township is unique. Land values are higher than most municipalities. And as Ms. Storiana correctly pointed out, Mr. Moran did request that we consider the sale of road allowances that lead to water. However, council over the years has been very consistent that they don't wish to consider that. And hence staff has not made the recommendation to make that change. But again, I think the fees was a fair request to further review that, and staff's come back with some options there that I think are unique to the township, that are different from what our neighbors, and Ms. Story has pointed that out. It would be an optional approach if you're off the water, and a value and contribution approach where the road allowance abuts or leads to water. I think in recognition that there could be some instances where that road allowance leading to water has substantial value to it, and perhaps a set rate doesn't reflect that appropriately. So I think we have done that made in Muskoka approach, but at the same time provided you what our neighbors do just for informational purposes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Zavitz, sorry.
Thank you, and through you. I certainly agree with our CAO. I think this is a really thoughtful presentation, and I think
just want to make sure we're in
so my
question.
question, yeah. So I think it's a really thoughtful presentation, and I think this is a game of inches. I think this is a really smart way to add into this to get some of this new
The
stuff.
question is,
Yeah, so my question to Chriselle is not so much, did we compare to others, but in your experience, does this sort of match up with what you experience on a day-to-day basis when you get calls from people?
Through you, Chair. So I don't have much experience with the value and contribution appraisals. I think what applicants do like with the cost per square foot method is it gives them an idea before they start the process, how much is this going to cost me? And I think that goes a long way for somebody who's going down this road to pre-plan what those costs are. But then looking at the appraisal method too, I think it's beneficial to both the owner and the township that, you know, everybody's getting their bang for their buck. Yeah.
any other questions at this point? I will read the resolution moved by Councillor Zavitz, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that the changes proposed in Appendix 1 of Report LS-2026-019, Sale of Shore Road Allowances and Road Allowances Policy be approved, and that staff return to Council with an update to the fees and charges bylaw as outlined in Report LS-2026-019. So committee, I'll now open it up for comment. Councillor Bosemuth.
Thank you. I'm a little reluctant on the peninsula and island clauses, particularly the peninsula. But as Mayor Kelly pointed out to me some time ago, all of the north side of Port Samfield, all the way up to the very top of the Little Joe River, is an island. It's a huge piece of property. And it has, I don't know, 2 or 3 road allowances on it, 2 for sure, that lead to water. Peninsulas, I was looking through the map the other day, and there's peninsulas all over the place based on how it's defined. And, you know, we can say no, but we're setting an expectation that it's okay to come. But I think for the most part, we got to be very careful. On the flip side of that argument is Mr. Moran's suggestion is that we may have some that are worth a lot of money, and we will never have any interest of using them. And if we know that, there is a really interesting opportunity, because as we have, Councillor Burry just said, there's these can add some very significant value, development right values to a piece of property, and we should avail ourselves of that if we know that we've got some that are never going to be used. So on one hand, I don't want to open it up, but it might be a good idea to consider what Mr. Moran is suggesting, is that we do an inventory and say, look, let's look at things. Look at all the ones that go to the road allowance. You know, there's some value in there. We all know we need funds, and we're thinking about selling out other sort of land assets. These might be ones that should be considered too. So I'm not quite sure where to go on that one. But I think if you did an inventory, made a definition, or we had a list of what we could sell, then we would say all these other ones we're never going to sell. And I don't know whether, that's a big effort, but I think that's the road we might consider going down.
Thank you. Other comments? I did see, Mayor Kelly, I think I saw your hand up, and then I saw Councillor Kent, Councillor Nishikawa, Councillor Roberts. So.
Thank you. And through you, my comment was virtually identical to Councillor Bosenworth. If we're completing a land inventory and we can see road allowances that are tortured, we're never going to use them, the only value to them would be an adjoining landowner. Presumably, we should be comfortable selling them. We can't force anybody to buy them, but we can certainly make them available. And I like it priced on a value added basis rather than per square, but like we're buying carpet. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you in a second. I have a question for you in a second, but Councillor Kent?
I just want to clarify, because I believe that the inventory is a great idea, but I was concerned about the methodology. If it's not done on if you're adding 66 feet to a cottage that then allows them to have a much bigger boathouse, that's worth every single dollar on a per square foot that you'd get. So how does the valuation approach that you're suggesting? I don't exactly understand what it gets you to as compared to what and this goes back to the issue. It came up when we were looking at Riverdale Road a long time ago, the value of 1 foot of waterfront. So can you maybe clarify for me, David Pink or Chriselle, the different approaches and where they end up value-wise? Because I'm just maybe a little confused by the wording.
Okay, I think I've got 3 people that seem to be interested in responding. So I'm going to start
Yeah,
with Rochelle.
so Councillor Ken, are you sort of wondering what this value and contribution appraisal entails? Because I can sort of read through what I've had in, like what that really is in the report, and that might give you some
I'm trying to
clarity.
compare how the value in this wording that you've come up with, value and
Value and contribution, yeah.
as compared to a
Yeah.
square foot
So
methodology.
if you don't mind, I've put it in there because it is, it's a little different, but so that method of appraisal will identify the before valuation, estimating the market value of the adjacent land as a standalone site without the benefit of the road allowance lands. Secondly, it then estimates the market value of the road allowance lands combined with the adjacent lands as though they were one parcel. The difference between the two values represents the contributory value of the road allowance land and captures the value and contribution of the road allowance lands would have. So that's what the value and contribution appraisal is. It's evaluating the road allowance and the applicant's property separately, and then the value of them together, and then that's how the contribution value is determined.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kelly, does that get to,
Sorry,
am I
Councillor
missing
Ken?
something?
Councillor Ken, thank you.
Right, sorry.
Thank you. I think you've responded on what the value of contribution is. I would at this point like to ask thank you, our clerk to respond as well. Sorry. I need my coffee. Sorry.
Thank you, through you. If I can just comment on the other 2 items that have been brought up. So one was the definition of a peninsula, or when we would look at an island. So the difference from the previous policy to the new policy is that it does restrict it further, in that we wouldn't look at the road allowance or selling any portion of that road allowance if there was any type of access to it. So if there's any type of road allowance that goes through it in some way. So if the public can get to that road allowance, we wouldn't consider selling it. There's always the caveat that the applicant can come to this table and ask to submit an application. So that kind of speaks to the second point. While I understand doing an inventory of all of our shore road allowances or road allowances that lead to water would be ideal. I'm sure we can all appreciate how many resources it would take to do something like that. Just to put in perspective, right now we are working on the inventory of our lands, and we're looking at another 6 months before we can even come back to this table, just based on the review of that. So while I can appreciate that, we're working on that right now. If we're looking at an inventory of all of these road allowances that lead to water, I would just caution that it's going to be some time before we could come back to that, and that there's substantial resources. The nice thing with the policy right now is that it does leave some room for people to make that application, should it be appropriate. And then again, if there's something that somebody deems or believes isn't of any use to the township, they can come forward to this table, make that plea to you, and we can kind of deal with it on a case-by-case basis. This is an ongoing policy. We'll be looking to bring it back in the not too distant future in regards to docks anyways. So I think this is kind of a staged approach. And my recommendation at this time would be to leave the restriction and then potentially open it up once we're a little bit further down the road with the township lands.
Okay, thank you. I now have Councillor Nishikawa and then Councillor Roberts, and then I can come back to you, Councillor Bosworth. David wants to speak. My goodness, sorry, just one. CA.
Can I just finish quick?
I should,
My comments and questions were already answered through this happening, so I can be stripped from the list.
oh, well, thank you. That makes life easier. Thank you. And I will replace that with CAO Pink.
Thank you. Through you, just really quickly to further clerk's comments. I think while an inventory, may seem appealing, it's not just the time factor and the amount of resources to put into that. I think they're different as well. The inventory of municipal land that we're declaring surplus, I think, would be open to the general public to potentially purchase. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think typically with a road allowance leading to water, you'd really only be dealing with the neighboring property owners who have interest. I don't think council envisioning's opening up 66 feet strips of land to the open market. So I really think the policy route is the appropriate one to look at and have the discussion that you're having now, whether you wish to loosen the policy somewhat to open the door to the sale to abutting property owners, but let them come as they wish, or whether you wish to go more restrictive and simply remove even peninsulas or islands from the consideration. So just wanted to clarify that aspect.
Thank you. Counselor Roberts?
Thank you. Just a comment. I'm thinking that if I had a piece of property that my neighbor would like to purchase and comes to me and say, hey, I would like to purchase that piece of property, I would consider that I need to get the much value out of that property as I deem I should get. And that's the same thing we should be doing when we're selling this types of property, because we're not making it anymore. So it's sort of, and again, from my position, if that was happening, I'm looking at what the benefit it'll be to future generations. And I think the township should take that also into consider. So if we're selling something, we got to make sure that money that we received is the best we could get at that time.
Counselor Rosenworth?
Thank you, and I think this is probably to the clerk. Thank you for clarifying, and I had read it, I just didn't recall that we will not be selling road allowances that lead to water if that road allowance has public access. But we have quite a few road allowances. If you look at them, they go like this, and there's no road close to them anywhere. So if it's like that and it's on a peninsula or an island, let's say a peninsula, there is no public access here, but it is public property. So is that, when you say public access, do you assume that public have access over our road allowances, even if they're going through the middle of the bush?
Okay, thank you. Oh,
Sure, I can take
Ms.
it.
Hurry?
So as long as the public does, if there's no road, the public doesn't have access to that road allowance. So it's landlocked essentially. So there's no private road going through it, any type of access where the public might be using it. We look at snowmobile trails where those lie. So that's what that means.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, if I could. So in my example where they're both essentially going through the bush,
Mhm.
this one that leads to the shore.
Yep.
Would be on the list that potentially to be purchased.
Yes, as long
Okay.
as it crosses a peninsula and there's no road or the public can't access that piece, it's landlocked per se. That's when it could qualify, they could submit the application.
Counselor
Sorry,
Blow?
one final. They can submit the application, but we still have the right to say no.
That's correct. That special circumstance, through you, Chair, that special circumstances clause in the policy is kind of like the last loophole that, okay, we'll accept that application. If the road allowance doesn't have, or doesn't cross a peninsula, doesn't cross an island, we can accept it. And if they would like to go to the next step, that's when they come to committee and they delegate and they ask for permission to submit that application. And it's up to you if you will allow them to submit the application. And then staff come back, they look at it, and with the staff report.
Thank you. Any other comments? Counselor Zavitz?
Thank you, and through you. So I can recall back 2019, I know with the then Councillor Kelly and perhaps yourself even, what we did ask for a number of times for the corporation of the township of Muskoka Lakes, who has a land bank. It's an asset of this corporation. And I think we've been asking for just a number of years about having the list, knowing where it is, it's under lock and key, and talk about an asset. I mean, the lakefront access to water is huge. It could potentially be huge. I'm not trying to overstate it, but I think we as a corporation should know. We should be able to put our hand on what the value, because that's our number one asset. It's not the money in the bank. It's our tax. It's the land that we own as a township, that all the taxpayers own, that we don't really know, to the clerk's words, we don't really know what we have. And I think it's vital. Now, we've been asking, and I think there's been lots of mentions of it in the past, but we don't really know the values of, the asset that we have. Unless I'm wrong. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Story?
Yeah, through you to Counselor Zavitz. We have heard that. And that's what I've worked on with the district is on GeoHub now. You can go on in the zoning map 2.0, this new layer. And on there, we've demonstrated and pointed out like it's checker or bolded and whatnot, where all of our township owned lands are. With that said, that does not include shore road allowances or road allowances, but it at least demonstrates to the public, you know, you're nosing around, oh, township owns that. So we've done the work for that. And that's a much prettier view than it would be if I were to email you like an Excel spreadsheet of all of our properties. It demonstrates where the properties are. But again, that doesn't include the road allowances. The road allowances, you know, you can sort of gauge where they are on GeoHub as well.
So I think the answer is that you did listen to the group and you have been working on it. And I think as commented by our clerk, my gosh, it's terrible today, sorry. That the work is still ongoing to get that this completed, and it's more time consuming than we might appreciate. Okay, I have read the resolution. I am now looking finally, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you, that carries. Thank you very much. Ms. Story, we appreciate that. Good work. I'm going to move on to item 8B, please. And I think I'm welcoming somebody online. Is that correct? Director Donaldson, welcome.
Good morning, Chair. Hope you can hear
Morning.
me.
Yes, welcome.
Apologies for not being in person this morning. Morning, committee members. So for this report, staff are recommending amendments to the procurement policy to align with the province's Municipal Buy Ontario Procurement Directive under Bill 72, the Buy Ontario Act. The directive requires municipalities to prioritize Ontario and Canadian goods and services in the procurement of light-duty vehicles and capital infrastructure projects, which includes a domestic supply chain plan. Requirements for that establishes new criteria for evaluation of local content, along with price and quality. The implementation of these changes will require updates to the procurement documents, our evaluation methods, our reporting practices, and our administrative procedures, resulting in increased staff oversight and administrative workload. But in doing this, we'll be prioritizing Ontario and Canadian content. But in doing so, this may impact project costs and reduce supplier options in some cases, particularly where locally sourced goods or services are more limited or maybe carrying a higher price. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Hey, committee, I do have a resolution, so I will open up the floor first, though, for questions, please. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I was going through the document and through you to the director. I was around when we were really concerned that we bought local. We used local suppliers. We used like that was actually embedded in our policy. I'm not quite sure what that looks like in here right now. Like specifically, it was Muskoka.
Okay, thank you. Director Donaldson.
So through you, Chair. So there's no specific Muskoka preference given through the existing procurement policy. It was really based on merit and price. This is a provincial directive that scopes it more to Ontario, and if not Ontario, then Canadian production. But again, there's nothing specific to give preferential or additional points for Muskoka businesses.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. Is there an opportunity to include the Muskoka like discussion? So for an example, there was a time when we were just buying our pickup trucks local, like as in Bracebridge or whatever Muskoka dealership had. And is there still an opportunity to add that local content?
Okay. Director Donaldson.
So through you, Chair, absolutely. This is a policy of council, and any specifics or changes that you would like to direct, I'd be happy to incorporate those if that's the will of committee.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I will read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Bosemuth, seconded by Councillor Burry. Whereas the province of Ontario has issued the Municipal Buy Ontario Directive under the Buy Ontario Act 2025, requiring municipalities to give preference to procurement which benefits businesses in Ontario and Canada. Now therefore be it resolved that committee approve the proposed amendment to bylaw 2025-108 and to Schedule 1 affixed to said bylaw referred to as Policy C-FS-20 Procurement, attached as Appendix 1 and 2 respectively to Report FIN-2026-007, and that the bylaw amendment be forwarded to Council for final approval. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I really like what Councillor Nishikawa just proposed. I don't want to be handcuffed on anything we put in here, but I think that we should look economic development for our Muskoka Lakes is at least understand what a local business could bring to the table on a quote, and just have that as an option that we considered local, and perhaps they're not in the right position to do the volume of work or something like that, but something like that. And I'd like to get the thoughts of everyone else around the table on that.
My apologies, my mic was not on. Are there any other comments or questions from committee? Either on that specific ask and or something else? Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you through you. So to Councillor Nishikawa and Councillor Roberts, there is no inclusion piece into this new proposed document, right? So we're not excluding the Township of Muskoka Lakes contractors and artisans at all. Am I correct? And so that, and anyone, it's free season, open season for them to participate in this. So we don't have to add it in, but we're not excluding anyone from it. Am I correct?
Director Donaldson?
So through you, Chair. So no, absolutely. There's no exclusions. Anybody is open to bid. Director Colucci may have some thoughts in terms of the advantage that local bidders already have, for example, on construction projects where they don't have to pay for room and board or bringing travel time to bring staff up. If they've got workers in the local area, they'll already have an advantage over somebody outside the area. But no, there are no specific exclusions to not allow anyone to bid.
Okay, Councillor Nishikawa?
Thank you. I'm forming a question because I feel like we're not going to land on the right number or the idea today that I would submit something and it will come back when it comes around to council. Mostly when we looked at this before, there were a little bit more percentage points given if it was local, and in fact, a little more forgiveness if their price didn't quite match exactly what a much bigger firm and things, but in fact that they were a Muskoka business. We actually looked at it a little better, or that we were doing the right thing.
Okay.
And so I don't know what those numbers would look like or how to present that before this is voted on. But I would just suggest something may come back around the council table when it comes.
I'm looking now to Director Colucci, has his hand up, so.
Okay, so through you, just to speak about the Buy Ontario, what it does is it gives a slight edge if you have the majority of your product made in Ontario or Canada. So actually what they do is they give you double scoring if you're in Ontario and a single extra score, but only the largest amount of Canadian or Ontario items get the bonus for pricing. So they give that one bidder a 10% bonus on pricing. So, I imagine I could work with Mr. Donaldson about maybe giving a similar score to local, contractors, right? So we could maybe add that, but it's only on the pricing score. So, all the other scores are as they are in our normal bidding process. And I think, Mr. Donaldson mentioned that, local contractors already have quite an advantage because if they're local, the travel time is less, the hauling time for gravel is less, the hauling time for asphalt is less. So, there is a big, advantage to being local. And as far as, vehicles go, under this new Buy Ontario Act, Ontario produced vehicles are sort of the tier one. So you have to look, you want to go to Ontario vehicles, but if there's not available, there's like a tier two that is like an Ontario producer. So for instance, for pickup trucks, the only pickup truck right now that's produced in Ontario is the Chevy Silverado, which is produced in Oshawa. And, any other pickup trucks are not, so they would be tier one. So if, if they bid and they're a tier one, then but if we don't get a bid from a tier one, then we'd go to tier two, right? And passenger vehicles, there are, only a few that are produced. And they're on the Buy Ontario website, there's actually a list of the producers that are making things in Canada and in Ontario.
Okay, thank you. CAO Pink.
Thank you. I think to help, if I'm understanding the discussion correctly, I don't think we need to, as a committee, determine what the changes are. I think leave that to staff. I think the direction that we need from committee is whether you wish to agree or disagree on including a Buy Muskoka component in addition to the Buy Canada, Buy Ontario. And the staff would be pleased to, as Mr. Donaldson pointed out, craft that language. We could either defer the matter and come back in a month's time for further discussion, or we could presumably make those changes and include it on the council agenda in a month's time if you wish to move this forward more expeditiously. But I think that's the direction. I don't think you necessarily need to debate what the scoring would be or the numbers around this table. Let staff put some proposals before you in a month's time. I think again, the decision is whether you wish to include a Buy Muskoka or not.
Okay, and I think I've been sensing that there's an amendment being considered here for that we would be able to put forward to be voted upon on that specific question. And then we can come back to the main motion. So, Councillor Nishikawa?
Thank you. Sorry, just another thought. Well, I'm not sure if we do this or not, but I'm just wondering if we're better to buy bulk, like within the 6 municipalities, for those pickups and those sort of things, if that actually might also land us in a better location. And I'm trying to stick with buying local, buying an Ontario product, but actually still trying to buy local, but let those Chevy GM dealerships know that they could favor pricing for 6 municipalities as opposed to just one.
Okay, Director Colucci.
So, and through you, a lot of our purchasing we still do under the AMO group. So, it is part of a larger purchasing group, and, we don't necessarily go with, say, for the district to purchase that way, but we do it through the larger group, right? So whatever is available through this larger buying group, then we will use that process. And I think through the Buy Ontario, we would have a similar scoring for that, right? So if, a bidder is submitting for pickup trucks, say we're buying pickup trucks, or, then, they would get additional scoring for that, right? If they're a tier one supplier. And for construction projects, there is a scoring process, which it was just introduced by the province. So we'll have to, as we have projects coming in, we'll be using those as part of that. But we do try to go to the larger buying group as much as possible.
Mayor Kelly, and then I think we have, and then we'll need just a couple of minutes. Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, and through you. I'm absolutely in favor of giving a balance of preference, all things being equal, to a locally produced good. But when we start talking about giving a preference of, I think I heard 10% on pricing, I struggle to understand how that's any different than a certain president, who will remain nameless, of another country adjoining ours, which will remain nameless, imposing tariffs on goods that are made offshore or even in this country. So I'm just struggling to understand how this isn't a tariff. All things being equal, local should prevail. When we start giving price concessions or allowing a 10% overage on price, I can't understand how that's any different than a tariff.
Thank you. So if you can just give committee. Okay. No, that's okay. Director Beth Serras.
Thank you. Through you, just working on the amendment here. So it'd be to benefit local businesses. I just want clarification. Is it local businesses within Muskoka or local businesses within the township of Muskoka Lakes?
Thank you.
Muskoka.
Okay. So would you like just a few more minutes then? Councillor Bosemarth?
Is it clear that we have a mover and a seconder?
Thank you. And that's why I appreciate you asking the question. That's why it is part of the conversation now. Thank you. Okay, this is the amendment moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that the motion be amended to include the following after the second paragraph, and that staff be directed to include an additional benefit for local businesses by Muskoka Initiative for further consideration by council prior to the passage of the amending bylaw. Okay, questions or comments? Mayor Kelly?
Thank you very much. If it's an additional benefit, it's an additional benefit in addition to whatever is offered under the Buy Ontario program. Is that what I'm understanding? That's what I'm hearing. So it could be more than a 10% bonus.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm this is good. Thank you for the question. I'm not quite sure who to direct these questions to now. So perhaps those who have put forward the amendment, I'll turn to the two of you just to make a comment.
Okay, I didn't like the word benefit. But I want that anything that comes forward should be considered, local businesses should be considered to be able to do the business and give it a little nod if they can. So it's I just don't. I would like to see us consider local Muskoka. We're trying to boost our economy, and if we can do so with just having a caveat or something in there that says we're going to consider them. Ruth, is that right? Yeah.
We haven't decided.
No. There's no percentage.
It's going to be a star.
Yeah. Martin.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, we're just looking from a process standpoint here. I just had a few questions. Director Donaldson, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I just did want to emphasize as well that the Buy Ontario is scoped to light vehicles and construction projects only. So I think we just want to have clarity as well, as this is a full scope of all Muskoka Lakes Township procurement, or would this be along the similar scoping of the Buy Ontario? Just to clarify that point.
Thank you. Councillor Kent.
Thank you. Unless I'm misunderstanding, I don't see why we would have a separate additional benefit for local businesses on top of the Ontario and the built-in benefit of them being local, meaning their costs are reduced in fulfilling the project. So I'm not in favor of, it's already becoming cost problematic for the township to have a 25%, whatever the Ontario government is asking for. It's expensive. Like, these are our dollars that we need to do other things with. So I wouldn't add another supplement on top of the already mandated supplement when they have existing benefits built in.
Okay, I am going to come back. I see I've had Mayor Kelly, Councillor Zavitz. I'll come back to you, Councillor Nishikawa. And Councillor Roberts, can you please turn off your mic? Yes, Mayor Kelly, sorry.
Thank you, and through you. Might I suggest that instead of talking about benefits, we simply note that all things being equal in a competitive bidding situation, all things being equal, we will prefer the local producer or service agent or whatever you want to call it. But no benefit, no additional benefit. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you, through you. I'm not sure that I prefer the use of the word prefer that the mayor just brought up, because I mean, how does one show preference? It's some sort of, so to Councillor Kent's earlier point, yeah, I'm okay with the, if we change it to by Ontario, by Muskoka, and it's more of a empathic sort of positioning for everyone to understand. But I don't see that there should be an extra benefit. I don't know how you would ever exercise these poor people that work on staff. I don't know how they'd ever exercise that and purchase something, whatever good or service, based on the narrow focus here. If we use the word prefer, how do we even do that? So, and I don't want to tie anybody's hands. I think it's more of a emotional, if you will, by Ontario, by Muskoka. I mean, that just infers that we're, all for one for all. But at the end of the day, your pricing, if you submit a bid, will stand, right? I mean, it is what it is. It's a competitive nature.
Mhm.
So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
My intent, thank you, through you, I wanted the language in the resolution, or in whatever we're moving forward. And in fact, I didn't even know we were going to try to put this resolution together. I thought it was going to come to during council, but was mostly, so when all of this stuff changes over, I would like somebody to look at a document that first says, look at Muskoka first. Just look, like make Muskoka a higher priority than somebody from Southern Ontario, a company in Southern Ontario. I get the whole, you have to accept your bids as they come in and all of that process, but not having words in a policy that suggest to new staff that we might want to favor whatever that looks like. Muskoka, and even when we send out our requests for bids, to really highlight Muskoka is what I'm trying to get at. Like,
Okay.
Let's not just turn ourselves over to Southern Ontario.
Okay, thank you. So committee, I have got a resolution, an amendment in front of us. I have read it. I think what we need to do, if I could offer, is let's vote on this amendment. If there's a different amendment that would like to be put forward with a mover and a seconder that has clarity after this, then I'll then open it up at that point to that possibility. And then we will finalize this whole document or this whole discussion with me voting on the main motion as amended, if that's required. So I have this one in front of you. I will read it again. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, second by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that the motion be amended to include the following after the second paragraph, and that staff be directed to include an additional benefit for local businesses by Muskoka initiative for further consideration by council prior to the passage of the amending bylaw. So if you're in favor of that being added, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Okay, so that is defeated. Now I will open it up because I think there was some clarification after reading that amendment of perhaps the intent behind the discussion. If anybody is interested in putting forward a new motion and has a seconder for an amendment, then we can consider that before I read the main motion as amended. Okay, so I'm not seeing any hands at this point. So I have read the main motion that was before us, moved by Councillor Bosemarth. I'm going to read it again, seconded by Councillor Burry. Whereas the province of Ontario has issued the Municipal Buy Ontario Directive under the Buy Ontario Act 2025, requiring municipalities to give preference to procurement, which benefits businesses in Ontario and Canada. Now therefore be it resolved that committee approve the proposed amendment to bylaw 2025-108 and to schedule one affixed to said bylaw referred to as policy C-FS-20 procurement attached as appendix 1 and 2 respectively to report FIN-2026-007 and that the bylaw amendment be forwarded to council for final approval. Okay, not seeing any hands. I will now call the question. All those in favor? Okay, that carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Director Donaldson. The committee, I'm just looking at the time now. It is 10 after, so I'm going to suggest that we resume back here at 10:25, please. To get started with item 8C. Welcome. You're already at the podium. This is fantastic. Thanks, Ms. Jeffries.
Hello?
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Mazan and committee.
Committee, thank you.
This report is for informational only and summarizes the results up to the end of the first quarter. We are on track with 75% of the budget remaining, but keep in mind that the first quarter results are influenced by many seasonal impacts in both revenue and expenses. For example, road maintenance, cemeteries, parks, swimming trails are under budget due mainly because they're the usual timing of their expenditures. Facility maintenance is over budget largely due to higher winter heating and hydro costs, and those costs typically reduce over the summer. Bylaw is over budget mainly due to short-term rental licenses and fine revenues being low in the first quarter. And since we spoke about winter control so much last year, I thought I'd give you an update where we are this year. We are at 35.8% or $415,000 of it, the winter control budget remaining at the end of the first quarter, and there's minimal, if no costs in the second quarter. Unlike last year where we had, I believe it was something like $67,000 left at the end of the first quarter. Obviously, that doesn't give us the year-end results because it'll be what the weather is like in the fall and winter, but we're starting out a bit better with that. First quarter does not have any flood information in it, and from an accounts payable or accounting, I haven't seen that many costs. If there's any questions on that, it would be Director Colucci that would have to answer those. And for capital spending, it's typical that the first quarter is low. It depends on the projects that are carried over in the year. And this, for 25, most of the purchase is for 2 tandem trucks with small amounts spread over a number of 2025 and a few 26 projects. And we will be providing more detailed capital spending in future reports. And if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is for information. So questions and comments, Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. Through you. Good report. Thanks for the update. I'm certainly most concerned about the flooding piece and the impacts of that on our budgeting. And so, for example, the 25,000 sandbags that I read about with watching the trucks with the gravel and everything else. I guess my question is, and it's either to you or to Mr. Colucci, what are we expecting in terms of impacts from that? Like, will we be sitting here in July looking at the second quarter and whoops, it was $298,000 worth of expenses for the flooding. And for example, the Burgess Dam. I mean, we put all those sandbags, guys were all over the place. Is that allocated to that project that we've, have money towards, or is that part of an overall flood allocation? Thank you.
Director Colucci.
Pushed it. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So yes, we are tracking all the costs related to flooding through a separate code, including any work on the Burgess Dam. We don't really have a full accounting of all those costs yet because we haven't got the allocation from the contractor yet. But we're not anticipating meeting our the amount of money that we would need to apply for the province for funding. But I think the effect this year compared to 2019 was much less. We raised a lot of roads in 2019, so we had fewer roads that were affected. We had fewer loads of gravel required for those. Our normal grading was delayed just because of the wet roads, but it seems that we had a lot less effect than we did in 2019. So we will have an effect on the budget, but we'll probably know in the next month or so when all those invoices come in.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Bowdemorth?
Sort of top level question. What are your thoughts about having quarterly plans rather than just full year plans?
Thank you.
From my personal opinion, through you, my personal opinion, it's very difficult because we have so many seasonal impacts from winter, summer. Like there's no one formula that works for the municipality because of the various aspects. So I think it would be challenging for staff to be able to divide the budget equally, because winter, summer, like there's just too many factors there. And yes, it does make this report challenging. I acknowledge that, but I think it would be very challenging for the staff to get an accurate accounting of all the different lines into a quarterly budget.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments? CAO Pink.
Thank you. Just further to Councillor Zavitz's question, just wanted to clarify, although Director Clucci is correct, we're experiencing less operational costs with this year's flood compared to previous. I think the true costs or more significant costs will likely lie in the capital side. And as the floodwaters are just recently receded, I think we're investigating those. And as noted in the report on this afternoon, staff will be reporting back in the future on any of those more substantial costs, but those are still yet to be unknown. So I didn't want to give the impression there won't be an impact. There could be, but we're still assessing that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much again. Great
Thank you.
detailed report. We appreciate your 10A. Mr. Cox, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of committee. My first report this morning presents an updated community improvement plan private sector incentive program policy for committee's consideration. As committee will recall, in February of this year, committee directed staff to amend the CIP policy to both reprioritize the existing private sector incentive programs and also add a new scoring system for assessing applications. In addition, last month, committee approved several amendments to the CIP itself that both added several new housing-focused programs and created a new township-wide CIP area for which these new housing programs apply. The policy that's included in Appendix 1 of this report includes both of these updates and also provides the necessary guidance that is necessary for staff to implement the new programs. If approved and ratified by council, it is our intention to open a application intake for the Community Improvement Plan grant program throughout June and July, with recommendations coming back to council in the fall. The full details of the policy update can be found in my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that committee may have about it at this time. Thank you.
Okay, committee, I do have a resolution, but at this point I will open it up for questions. Okay, I see none. Moved by Councillor McIntyre, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that the updates to policy C-FS-18, Community Improvement Plan Private Sector Incentive Program, attached to staff report DSES-2026-018 as Appendix 1 be approved. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Cox. And I believe you are on for the next one as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my second report this morning provides a list of potential uses for the funds in the Bala Community Reserve Fund, that are aligned with the identified community priorities from the public consultation that was run last year, and also recommends a project to be implemented. Committee received the results of the community engagement on potential uses for these reserves funds in September of 2025, and at that time directed staff to report back with a list of projects aligned with these results. Staff have analyzed the potential options that are included for discussion in the report, and based on that analysis are recommending that the funding be used to expand capacity and functionality at the Bala Town Dock on the Bala Bay. A full analysis of potential projects that are aligned with the 4 highest community priorities can be found in the report, as well as several alternatives for committee's discussion and consideration. The full details of this analysis are in the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions committee may have at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So committee, I do have a resolution, but I will open up the floor first for questions for Mr. Cox. Councillor Roberts.
I have a question for Councillor Colucci, so I'll hold off until you read the resolution.
Let's
Sorry,
get him
Direct.
in first.
Thank God.
No, sorry, you can have, this is a question period. So if you have questions, that's fine.
Counselor, no. Uh,
Director Calucci, is that who you're?
Director
Okay.
Galucci, thank you.
I'm helping out too today.
Yeah. Can you give us a background on what the budget entails for 2027 for this this dock on the Moo River?
Okay,
And
thank you.
through you, Madam Chair. So yes, in 2027, we're proposing to reconstruct the boat launch and rebuild the dock that's there. And we're doing that in a number of our boat launches. So this one just falls in the 2027 budget cycle.
Okay, thank you.
Supplemental?
Mhm.
There was mentioned by the delegate that there is a large rock that that many are hitting. Is there any plans to maybe remove that rock or thoughts of looking at what could happen?
Okay.
And through you again. So, I think the refurbishment work wouldn't include removing a large rock, because that would require more work. We have to get permits from the ministry to do this work. And typically they have us do it in the fall during the fish timing window. But we would look at each one separately. And, in this case, if there is a rock that's sort of in the boat launch area, we might be able to, go around it or remove part of it if it's a smaller rock. But if it's a large piece of bedrock, then no, it would stay there.
Okay.
You would work around it.
So may I have a couple more questions on this subject?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so what is off the top of your head, do you have the total estimated amount of money that we're anticipating to spend on the dock in 2027?
And through you, the total budget is 40,000, including the ramp and the dock. So I'm not sure the
Okay.
portion of that, but it's, a smaller portion for the dock than on the ramp.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And just, sorry, I want clarity, I think, on your second question. When you're doing all of the different launches, there's an opportunity to improve the location or the functionality of said asset. Is that correct? And that will be contemplated, and there will be due course for the public to participate if they have kind of institutional knowledge.
That's correct. So, we generally use, we're converting our docks to like a concrete dock, because some of them are asphalt, some of them are still gravel. So they're all going to like a concrete sort of precast type of system. So it's much easier to install and much easier to maintain in the long run. And yes, like if it needs to be a little bit deeper or if it needs to be a little bit wider, then we can deal with that during the detailed construction process.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I just needed a little bit of a preamble. This launch has been difficult over the years because the users have changed, like the type of, I was there last year when a huge barge that never should have been in that location was then there, actually got stuck. And so I'm wondering if part of this is also more of an educate, because we are talking about the River Street launch, are we not?
Correct.
And again, very limited access. It's a residential property right next door, well, essentially two. But I'm just wondering, there seems to be a lack of education. So when people are getting their furniture delivered, don't order the largest barge to come and get access from that location, those types of things. Is there an opportunity that we can start addressing this for many of our launches, quite frankly, because there's huge problems, as we've discussed earlier, about another location.
Okay, thank you.
Through you. So, there's two parts to that. First is, that launch is a recreational launch, not a commercial launch. So people shouldn't be launching commercial barges from that location. The second part of that is how we advertise that. So we do have a signage program that was in last year's budget, which will be implemented this spring. The signs are on order, and that should clarify some of the uses a little bit better on our boat launches. And, the website also shows which launches are allowed for recreational and commercial. And, so hopefully with some more public outreach, we can get that. But, the Moon River Lake Association, they could reach out to home members as well and let people know, look, if you're launching commercial, don't launch from there. So,
Okay. I have a resolution. I just want to make sure if there's any question, we can always have questions after as well if we want. Maybe I'll just read the resolution because that keeps us focused. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that the 2026 capital budget be amended to include a new project for the Ballatown Dock upgrade as recommended in report DSES-2026-019, and that reserve funds from the Swift River Energy Limited lease of lands be used to fund this project, and that staff be directed to develop the full scope of work and implement this project in accordance with the Township of Muskoka Lakes procurement bylaw. So that's the actual resolution that we're talking about. So at this point in time, I'll open it up for questions or comments. I'll go Councillor Zavitz and Councillor Nishikawa.
Good, thank you. So I didn't have any questions, but I do have some comments and appreciate the opportunity. Certainly, number one, I do believe that we have a luxury here, that this is not often afforded us in that, flexibility comes to my mind. The dollars exist. We know what they are, where they're from. This is certainly a very unique situation. What I'm hearing from so many constituents is, believe it or not, people don't seem ready to allocate these funds to any one thing. If you think about it, 27% of the folks, when asked, of the 132 people said they want a crosswalk and ballot. Well, they're getting the crosswalk and ballot, but not through this exercise. So we just alienated 25% of the 100%, if you will, who voted on something. And, we're getting crosswalks and ballots. So that's a net gain for the good town of Bala. I think the bigger piece here is, the dock on the Bala side, which is what is being proposed here, all well and good, but there are many other things that perhaps this money could be allocated to, and I don't believe it's ready yet. And I certainly will be asking for a deferral on this topic. I would suggest that through Mr. Poa, if Nick can see his way clear to somehow get approval from the M&R to amend that and fix that ramp on the Moon River side out of this money. I guess that's a different story, but it sounds like it'll be late this year before we'd even get an M&R approval on that. So perhaps that can just happen organically in 2027. But as it relates to the $192,000, I certainly would not be in support of, redoing a dock that I use to go to the bakery, et cetera, to get into Bala. I think that this is premature. And I know it sounds bizarre because this thing has been to the public and back and everything else, but I would implore those councillors who are not in Bala to not support this motion and in fact defer it until such time. And I don't know when that is, but just to bring it back, because I think if we were to vote for that right now, I don't believe that's the right acknowledgement of the experience that was ever sought, if I might. So I would appreciate more opportunity to comment later as well. Thank you.
Councillor Nishikawa, then Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. I have one question quickly, which I think we already kind of talked about, but is the timing for the budgeted repairs on the Moon River. So the question was asked if something could happen, like construction could happen this year. And just describing the process quickly, if we were to apply, or I don't know if you've already done that, but so essentially we wouldn't be able to start working on that dock until the fall, or I'm just thinking about the construction on the river sort of thing and where our limited access is with the M&R. Didn't say that very well.
So I think what I'm hearing is can you just lay out again the process whenever you're doing a construction project like the launch or dock, like you've done in other areas? What would be the process that staff needs to go through? I hope that captures it. Okay.
So for you, so the typical process is we would, come up with a design and then we would apply to the MNR for approval to construct that design. And that's typically done, early on, like, in the spring. And for the launches we were planning to do this year, that's already applied for. And then once we get the permit, the work is done during the timing window, which is in the fall. So, every single year we've done the work in the fall. Now, if we were to add this launch to the 2026 work plan, we would have to, get the design completed, apply to MNR, and we're kind of handcuffed with their timing, right? So that's why we try to do it earlier in the year, because they take sometimes a long time to do a review. But, and hopefully we could get that approval to still do the work in the fall. But, it's determined by the MNR, not by us. So it's sort of out of control once we do it. And we're a little late now. If we, were to come up with drawings and apply in June, then, that might not be enough time to get our approval by the end of, or by the fall to have the work done this year.
Okay, thank you. Supplemental?
Thank you. So my history about the this fund and the establishment of it, sitting at this table during that time, was primarily addressing the harm that the construction was to the businesses in Bala. It wasn't directed that, Bala Bay got hit harder or the Moon River got hit. It wasn't about that at all. It was about the impact on the businesses at the time when this fund was established. I know when I've done my questioning, like throughout the businesses, probably 2 of them I haven't talked to, but they actually didn't, they said, one of the things was, well, we don't need another park in Bala. Like we don't, it was more that what they didn't need, but in fact, they didn't have suggestions that would improve their business, except for sidewalks. But again, that's a district thing, and that was something different. So I actually like this proposal. I believe that it's capturing. I would love to fast track the boat launch on the river, but I don't get that it will happen. Like just even putting my contractor's hat on, all of this were restricted by the ministry. And so, and also, I'm sure that we can get creative with our financing and all of those kinds of things. But I believe that the way that the report was drafted and how I think we should stand by that, unless there is a way that we can fast track it. But I'm not hearing that from the director at this point. And so that's where I stand. I don't think that we should be waiting for something to change. It is what it is. And how many years are we going to have this conversation over and over? And I think the direction is a good one, unless we can find a way to fast track for the 40,000. I mean, it's not, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, and through you, just a couple of quick thoughts. I still beside myself that this fund was created. I don't know how many years ago, $192,000. Everybody seemed to understand what it was for, but nobody wrote it down. It's just amazing to me that we're making it up as we go along. But number 2, and I understood Councillor Zabit's comments, I just disagree with them. I think the process has been followed to the letter. I mean, we've been investigating the possible way to allocate these funds and get them back into the community to good use. I do like this proposal of fast tracking the dock. However, I'm a little astounded somebody is willing to pay for something this year that they were going to get for free next year, if I understood it, as part of the tax base. If I tried that stunt at Christmas, I'd have a bunch of unhappy kids. I mean, literally, they're pulling it ahead and funding it. If that's, from the Moon River perspective, if that's an appropriate use of these funds to accelerate it and get it done 12 months earlier than it would otherwise be done, then bless them. I would support this and move forward with it. We can't keep sending this back for study and consideration. We can't keep doing this theoretically until we get the answer we want. This is the answer we got with our staff working diligently to poll the public. And this new twist with the, accelerating it, I heard Mr. Crowley suggest that was acceptable and would be a good use of funds if we can blow up a rock or two to make it easier to get in and out of without knocking the lower unit off. That would be good.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have, I have a question for Councillor McIntyre. What are your views on this? It's in your ward.
Okay. Sorry, Mike, please.
They pretty well align with the views expressed by Councillor Nishikawa. This is an area that has been of concern for a long time, and I think it's time it was dealt with.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions? Okay, Councillor Zavitz, you did ask for.
Thank you. The resolution is in front of us is not to move the Moon River dock anywhere. It's already included in the resolution that's going to get done in 2027 as part of a budget. So what you'd be voting on today is to create a new docking space at the Ballatown dock on Lake Muskoka. That's exactly what you're. It's so funny because that's not what I'm hearing people really want. And to the mayor's point, 25% of the people did say they wanted a crosswalk. They're getting a crosswalk. So, I think when you get public survey and you get that kind of input, and then it's sort of immaterial now. I certainly won't be in support of this. And I don't think very many of our Bala constituents are going to like this, to be quite honest. And so I think it's almost, we're settling. And so I won't be in support of this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bosenworth.
Thank you, and through you to Councillor Zavitz. What more would you be expecting? What kind of project do you think would be acceptable?
Councillor Zavitz.
Well, thanks for the question. It's for you, Chair. I think that, like I said at the very beginning, this is the most unique situation we're going to look at in years. We have free money sitting there. I think to the mayor's point, it was the previous mayor working with others who made that dedication with the CAO at that time to allocate the funds to something to do with Bala. Bala themselves could somehow put their arms around the money and do something good with it. So it's 2026. It happened in 2019. I mean, clearly there's no rush. And I think, I don't know what the answer is, but nothing wrong with having a little interest in the bank. And then maybe something comes along. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about parking in the town of Bala. We need better parking. We have a pre-Cambrian shield parking lot. Now, I'm not trying to give new ideas, but that thing doesn't have any lines on it. It's not paved. We probably get twice as much parking in there, and it's got a high walking score in Bala. I'm hearing so much about parking. And I think with the traffic piece, with the crosswalks, we don't know what that's going to hold for Bala. So to put some finger docks at the town dock for $192,000, I don't think even gets close to remotely touching on the impact to the town of Bala. This is for all of Bala and its environs. So how many people come on Lake Muskoka to the dock, is to answer your question.
Okay, thank you. And through you. And just, I would like clarification because I see a different number in the report. Just back to Mr. Cox for a moment. What would be the cost of the floating docks being installed, just for the broader public?
Yep. So thank you, Madam Chair. So the project that's recommended in the report has two components. The floating docks themselves are estimated at approximately $50,000. And then the rest of the funding would be allocated towards other capital improvements in that space. So that could be improving the pedestrian connections between that docking space and the downtown, the addition of other assets as part of the redevelopment of that area.
Okay, thank you very much. And just if I could then ask a question, do you feel that this initiative has had appropriate public consultation thus far? And this is it's difficult, just that there's a variety of opinions. And I just want maybe your assurance.
Certainly. So I would say that I believe that the consultation, that process that we ran was as robust as any sort of municipal consultation could be. Now, having said that, of course, any outreach to the public is always a snapshot in time, right? As has been said, circumstances change, and if we were to go out and run this exercise again, we may get slightly different results as a result of that. However, based on the activities that we undertook, I feel that we got a fairly comprehensive assessment of what the community's thoughts were when we ran this back in August of last year.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to say Councillor Nishikawa, Councillor Bosenworth, and then I would like to call the question. So, Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. And it was going to be a question before James brought it up. So through you to James, I was concerned about that pedestrian access that travels under the bridge up to, and perhaps, I'm not sure if Director Colucci might have something to add, but so that was considered, because I really have wondered if we could improve that situation better. Again, getting that whole pathway access better laid out. And I just didn't know how far have you guys gone down the road in discussing this and what that looks like, because that would make a big impact for people too.
Mr. Cobb.
So through you, Madam Chair, I'll defer to Director Colucci on any of the technical aspects of this. I will say there has been at this point no real detailed design on what these upgrades could look like. The intent of our report here is to achieve committee and then council's buy-in for the broad use of the project, and then, as it says in the resolution, we'll go out and we'll scope out the project and determine what's possible. But I will. I'll defer to Director Colucci if he has any comments on that.
Okay, Director Colucci.
And through you, so I think that's correct. We will be doing a more detailed look at it, looking at all the pedestrian accesses to that point, and also whether there's other accesses for like dock pathways, to connect to there. But if this is approved by council, then we will look at detailed design, and we can come back with sort of an overall plan of that, and so everyone to look at. It won't include anything on the district roads. So, if there is any more, pedestrian sidewalks or whatever required on district roads, then, we'll look at that as part of a district reconstruction project at a later date.
Okay, a supplemental, and then Councillor Bosenworth, please.
Thank you. Well, what I wanted to add, and actually I want to use the words attainable transportation, or active transportation, I should say. So it's interesting because it is, if you were on the housing committee, you'd have a whole different thing about attainable.
Okay, yeah, so
active transportation. And why I say this is because that is a hiking trip. Those that walk and hike through the area, that is an active hiking area. And even the snowmobiles use this area as well. So I think the direction, what I heard, I think we're going in the right direction, because it's going to impact lots of things in that area that have been never really approached over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bosenworth.
Just a comment. I think Councillor Zavis has used the word, this is free money. And I was disappointed to not see something that all the proposals we have are things that are in the realm of the responsibility of the township anyway. And what something inspirational that we have in our town of Port Carling here, where we sit, we have the wall that attracts people to Port Carling. It gets a lot of attention. Huntsville has a beautiful statue of Tom Thompson by his canoe. These are really attractive things. And I was just disappointed that people didn't come along and say, here's something we could do for Bala like that. And it's kind of sad that we're just spending money on things that is ultimately an asset of the township that they should be looking after anyway.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Zavitz, and then I'm going to call the question.
Well, thank you. And through you, I don't believe I used the word free. If I did in the record, fine. But I do believe the word was found. At least that's the word that I meant. And please don't take me out of context. Please, because at the end of the day, no one fought more for this town than I did in Bala and so many others.
Okay, so
Yeah, no, my point is, I was one of the last boats parked at the Bala Town Dock at Cranberry Festival in 2025. So I use that dock all the time. I'm not belittling the experience of that particular place. I'm talking about process. And the process is I'm hearing from many people that there are other concerns that this money could be used against, and certainly not free. I have nothing but respect for money. And so at the end of the day, I would hope that a deferral would see this money intact for another day. And I'm not sure what the process would be for that, but I'm certainly not going to be in support of a finger dock for 50 grand and a $125,000 beautification of the Bala Town dock that a lot of people don't even see. I'll see it. Thank you. I'll see it because I boat there. But I can tell you, the traveling public, if they can find a way down there, then that's fine. But I just think there's a bigger fix that could possibly be had, and I don't think we need to do it at this moment in time. So I certainly won't be supporting it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've read the resolution. And I am now going to call the question. All those in favor? Okay, 1, 2, sorry, can you keep your hands up for a second, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Mr. Cox for helping us shepherd through a fairly long project. And as noted by Mayor Kelly, a really good lesson that when we have in receipt of anything, that we really want to make sure we understand upfront the parameters or the guidelines around something like this, because it just opens it up to a lot of confusion and then potential, instead of it being a very positive outcome for the community, the potential for hurt feelings or feeling misunderstood or misinformation. So thank you for helping guide us through this. I am now going to move us on to item 12A, which was the discussion on the VORR. And I would like to say, I don't think we have a resolution in front of us, do we? Wait, we have a potential resolution. Okay. I think to help guide this discussion, if those who have a potential resolution would like to lead off with the discussion, and that way it helps the rest of us understand possible next steps. So I'm seeing Councillor Bosenworth and then Councillor Roberts, I think. Okay.
Wake surfing, the activity of wake surfing is a problem across anywhere in North America that has lakes and population to match. There is more and more scientific evidence coming out supporting some guidance about where it is appropriate to wake surf. There is certainly growing evidence that has significant environmental impacts on shorelines, on lake beds in shallow water. There is property damage. I know people who've had to put in boat lifts to because their boats are pulling the waves are causing their boat to go up and pulling their cleats out of their docks, so they now have to go out and buy boat lifts. There are if you are out on a paddle board or a kayak or a canoe, you're in deep trouble if you come up across these waves. They are very powerful. They splash over the top of people's docks. There is very much the same kind of evidence that there are appropriate places to have wake boats. From what I understand about 3 Mile Lake, this lake is a postcard of a body of water that should have a VORR. It's actually under Schedule 7 of the regulations that allows a township to restrict time and place of where the activity of wake surfing can take place. It is a shallow lake. Safe Quiet Lakes is recommending, based on a lot of work that they have done, researching all across what's being done across North America, are recommending 250 meters offshore and 9 meters. This lake is a lot less than 9 meters on average. It's almost half of it. Well, it is half. And so I think I'm very much in support. I recommend to the township that we should pursue this. However, it is a complex process. And I think we have, our resolution is that we ask staff to go away and become informed about the process. And so that we can make a decision to support this with more knowledge than we have today. All we know, we have a request, but I know our staff doesn't know much about the VORR process because we've never had to do one before. I know something about it. I do know that they're not necessarily easy. I do know that they've already put forth this ability to restrict wake surfing uniquely has only been in place for a couple of years. There are already 4 successful applications in Canada, 2 in Quebec and 2 in Manitoba. This is a poster boy of what we should be doing. And so we have a resolution, and I've worked with the clerk, and Councillor Roberts will second it.
And so I will read that resolution, but just for my own understanding, it is to
It's
staff to come
direct
back. with a
staff to come
report.
back and
It's
become
more comprehensive than
informed
that.
about the
Yeah.
process and bring some education to us about what it will mean to us to enter into this
Okay.
process.
Okay, so Councillor Roberts, I just want to confirm that you're willing to second this request?
Certainly, but I do have a comment
Yes,
before you.
yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the question was asked about what other lakes are experiencing with large boats disturbing the lake and the water bottom. And I can speak for Leonard Lake. And I've been doing the water testing in Leonard Lakes for over 20 years, not recently because I've been doing this job. But what I've seen specifically in the bay from the landing out, it's narrow. And it's a great place for people to come in and ski, water ski, and to wakeboard because of the water being so quiet. And I've witnessed little children playing in the water, and the big wake boats or big ski boats come in, and the water comes in, and I just witnessed the young child being knocked over with a wave. You can picture if you're at Wasaga Beach or anything like that, the big wave hits them. What we don't see is when it hits the shore, it curls under. The water motion curls under and disturbs the bottom. And on all our testing, we test many places on Leonard Lake. That one bay, the lake bottom is dead. So why is that different? And the only reason I can speculate it's different is because of the turbulence that large boats are disturbing the bottom of the water right down to the middle of the bay. So that's why I'm supporting this and hoping that it's a fact gathering. It's going to be a journey. We're not going to get this done overnight, but I really support this.
Okay, so let me read the resolution that's before us, and then I can open it up. I can see Councillor Kent, you have your hand up, but let me at least read the resolution because we've had 2 members put something forward. Moved by Councillor Bosenworth, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Whereas committee received a presentation from Christine Louise Condy on behalf of the 3 Mile Lake Association. And whereas the association requested that the township work with them to submit a vessel operation restriction regulation, VORR, application to Transport Canada to restrict wake surfing on 3 Mile Lake. Now therefore be it resolved that committee directs staff to investigate and report back on how the township and the 3 Mile Lake Association might collaborate in preparing a VORR application, and that such investigation include consideration of required township resources, potential timelines, and anticipated challenges and/or benefits. So that is the resolution that is being put forward. I will now open that up to questions and comments. I have 3. Sorry, I saw Councillor Kent,
Yeah.
Councillor Zavitz, and then Councillor Bosenworth.
Thank you. I fully support this, but I do think it should be broad enough to the data that needs to come back needs to evaluate, are there any other obvious lakes where the same problems that are presented on 3 Mile Lake are presenting? I don't know what the water quality, I mean, Leonard Lake is one, and then I don't know what other ones there might be, but we might as well make it as broad as possible when we go in. But that's a strategy thing that I don't know anything about. So it's something that should be considered by staff if they come back and say, here's what you have to do, whether you're more likely to get approval or success with one lake rather than a a bunch of lakes.
Counselor Zavitz, Counselor Bozemuth, Counselor Roberts.
Thank you, through you. So just listening to Councillor Roberts, so there must be or seems to be some confusion about, is this big boats? Is this large boats? Because there's more of those than ever, or is this the wake surf activity? Because this is what I heard in the presentation on one particular lake. I can tell you, if you go to Walker's Point Marina, you can buy a $400,000 28-foot boat that can be used for a number of different applications, and those are running around Lake Muskoka, Lake Joe, Lake Rosso. I don't know if they're on 3 Mile or Leonard or whatever, but I wonder, be careful what you wish for, because is this the activity of wake surfing, or are we talking, well, and maybe water skiing and so I think we need to be very careful here. If it's just Leonard Lake, keep it just to Leonard Lake, but other than that, if this is going to affect or impact potentially down the road Lake Muskoka, we're gonna have to answer to our people, on our taxpayers, on those questions. Because man, I see more big boats than ever. The boats are getting longer, not shorter. So I'm wondering about that impact.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a great point about the activity is also what I heard. So I think that's important. But also just a clarification, this is specific to 3 Mile Lake. And I think that the delegation earlier today was specific because of the unique characteristics and qualities of this particular lake, and that's why it's being brought forward. Again, I think the request is not for us to debate all of this today, but to ask staff to come back to have a report that would allow for probably a more fulsome discussion, a little bit more an informed discussion is what I would suggest. Councillor Bozemuth and then Councillor Roberts.
I can help on that one a little front. The Transport Canada regulation is about the activity. So it is not restricting the use of a boat. It is the activity, to be very clear. And the only activity that they have currently that can be governed or restricted under the VORR is wake surfing, not water skiing.
Okay.
So to answer your question, the resolution talks about cooperating with the Lake Association. I have known for quite a long time the Transport Canada coordinator for Ontario and have had explicit discussions with her about, are townships allowed to, or municipalities allowed to work with lake associations? And by all means they are. But in the end, it is the township that is making the application. So it's just a way of perhaps spreading the workload. If we're happy with that, if we're not happy with this, then we do the workload. But that's the kind of the exploration that I think that our staff should look into, so that we're fully informed about how we might proceed with this before we make the decision.
I thank you. And I think that's the direction moving forward. Right. Councillor Roberts, did you want to add any last comment?
Yes, last comments. I wasn't implying that what we should do Leonard Lake. I was using an example of how, in my opinion, how that lake, that bay and our lake has died and what happens. So I think we need to keep it to this lake, 3 Mile Lake only, because it is the poster child for us to look into this advance. And then once we do this, we'll have lessons learned and a better understanding through the whole process. That's it.
Okay, so I think the two of you have put together a nice resolution. I've had a chance now to read that resolution. I would like to ask any last comments or thoughts. Councillor Zavitz?
Well, thank you. And again, through you. I heard in the presentation that what I interpreted it to be is it's okay to have a wake surf boat on 3 Mile Lake. You just can't use it for that application. Is that, we're drilling right down to that's the exact ask? You can have that boat, but you can't it's limited use of just that one type of boat.
Well, I am going to offer, I think this is exactly, we're asking staff to come back. So we will all have that same information led by our experts to make sure that we're 100% clear as a group, not just listening to different thoughts and opinions around the table, but let's let staff have a chance to actually come back with a report. And I think that becomes an important question, right? And an understanding, but that is certainly what I've heard from some of our peers. Okay, so I've read the resolution. I'm going to now call the question. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Thank you. That does carry. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for those who stayed in the audience to watch today's proceedings. We are now moving on to, this is, I forgot to ask, there was some correspondence included from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, and I am going to actually turn to CAO Pink, maybe just to help guide the purpose of having that correspondence on there under new business today, to help facilitate a conversation.
Yes, thank you through you. I think this matter was put directly on the agenda. It could certainly have been included in the correspondence package, but it is general correspondence to mayor and council. The reason, I guess, for singling it out, council may not be aware, but the province of Ontario recently amended some regulations where municipalities may choose to opt in to allowing alcohol consumption in public parks and facilities. I don't think this is a matter that's been discussed around this table, but really this was an opportunity to table that discussion should committee wish to discuss and direct staff again to investigate, prepare a report, or perhaps bring a bylaw forward in that regard. So again, that letter outlines the Simcoe Muskoka District's Health Unit position on it, or at least their thoughts on the matter. But again, it might be part of a broader discussion whether committee has any interest in discussing this new regulation from the province on allowing, again, alcohol consumption, I think not just in parks, but at municipal facilities.
Wow. Thank you. Just for clarity, and then I am going to open it up. By default, do we opt in and it's a permitted use then, unless we actually ask staff to come back with a report and give us the option to either opt in or out at that point?
Through you, I admit I'm not overly familiar with the regulations. My understanding is opting in would just be an initial step. There would be a number of regulations, permitting processes, et cetera, before it would actually be permitted. I would suggest, again, should committee be interested, likely a staff report may be warranted further exploring the situation, the regulations, but it's in the interest of staff resources. If there's zero interest to even pursue it or contemplate it, then I thought this would just be the simplest way to have this matter, the correspondence on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you, through you. I guess just from a guidance to our bylaw people, more than anything, do we have guidance, perhaps, Ms. Huff, on what the bylaw people will be interpreting, or will they be interpreting this year in our parks throughout the township?
Okay. Director Bess Sararas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the question and through you. So just to clarify, at this time, municipalities retain the discretion on whether to participate or not. So if there's no bylaw or resolution passed, then we are not opting in. So there's no need for any framework or anything. If it's this committee's wish to investigate opting into that potential legislation change, then we would need a bylaw to do so. So really, it's just giving the option right now for you to have staff look into it. But as of right now, there is no changes. We are not opted in, so there is no change for the bylaw department.
Yep, Councillor Zavitz.
Mental, thank you. Yes, because there will be a perception by the public that they've read it, so it's the new law, so that I can drink in the parks. That's what I'm going to hear. So perhaps that's an educational piece that we as a township could, on our social media, let folks know that we haven't opted in, so it's not okay. I just for what it's worth as a human,
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on this particular one? It doesn't sound like we have any interest in directing staff, so thank you for bringing that to our attention, though. I appreciate that. District of Muskoka updates. Are there any questions from the committee, and or comments from our district councillors? Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. I may have missed something, but the one thing that's important to district is the decision has already come back declining to pay attention to our request to elect a our own chair. And so we're going to be having one installed by the same people who brought you the docks in Port Sandfield.
Okay. And that's a perfect segue to the council meeting this afternoon. Thank you for those comments. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on the district? Seeing none, I'll move on to community events. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Anything upcoming? I'm seeing none. Okay, Councillor Nishikawa.
The Bala Legion will be celebrating their 80th birthday in the month of May, so there'll be activities. They keep changing them, so I can't say specifically which activities because there's a bunch. So just look for things coming forward, and they're all meant to be family friendly activities.
Great. Speaking of family friendly, I just want to acknowledge a couple of events that happened in the past few weeks. A bit earlier, I noticed Milford Bay in particular, but the pancake socials, really well attended, really wonderful to see. Specific to Milford Bay, what was interesting was the next generation being the ones flipping the pancakes under the guidance and tutelage of our fierce leader in that area. And it was just a really nice way to bring the community together and well attended. And the one that was the weekend before, actually, and I actually got a message because I was curious as to how many people came to the Windermere Lions Pancake Social at the Veach property. And it was, I think, in the numbers of 650 people coming through. A really well attended, joyful event. And I would say that as somebody who has been listening now to all the people who came and attended, there's a group that's going around, I forget the name, I'm not going to say it correctly, but the motorcycle group that keeps coming around and helping these different events out, and just talking to some of the volunteers who are doing these types of events. I just wanted to take a moment because I think coming out of COVID, it's taken time to build back up the numbers. And when I was talking to the leader of the Lions Club, specifically, he told me exactly how much they raised, the number of 650, and I think probably the maximum prior to COVID would have been a 750 thing. So it's a really, I just think there's a lot of people working really hard to build our community and do these types of events. And just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the efforts of those groups in our area and thank them for their ongoing efforts for the great work that they do. So I think, folks, and I really hope there wasn't an over and under on today, Councillor Burry, but moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor McIntyre, be it resolved that this meeting adjourn at 11:25 a.m. And the next regular meeting of the General Finance Committee will be held on Wednesday, June 10th at 2026 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair electronically from the Council Chambers Municipal Office in Port Carling, Ontario. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. And Mayor Kelly, I am assuming we just start at this traditional 1 p.m. time as noted on the calendar. So we have a little extra time for lunch today.